Happy Thursday! Thanks for joining me for a craft night with friends. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for beginners. And I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. And it's a time that we can relax and craft together. So tonight I thought I'd take it a little easy and work on the, I guess, recycled quilt, our leader and ender quilt, our quilt chore coat that I eventually want to make out of it. Anyway, this is our recycled, like slow motion project, recycled from different clothing scraps. We actually have been making these little half square triangles, sewing them as we work on other projects. So whenever we get to the beginning or the end of a row on a line of sewing, we'll add a little one of these, and eventually we sew them together, and we've been making a whole pile of blocks. I would like to turn it into a chore quilt, a quilt chore quilt at some point here once I have enough. So all right, let's get going on that. Okay, you guys, so I'm gonna shimmy all y'all together here. Okay, so this is where I'm at with this project. Thought I'd break it out again. We've been kind of finishing projects, or attempting to work on finished projects here during the fourth full week of the month. And so I've been putting together these quilt blocks from old clothes. I kind of just have like a bin of old clothes. I've been kind of grabbing the same amount. And in my bin that I store it in here, everything's at different stages. So here's like our final stage so far. I mean, ultimately, this is not the final stage, but I'm working on these 5x5 half square triangle blocks. But before we get to that, I have to trim them down to one half square triangle block like that, and then we start sewing them together. So this one obviously is not done, and here is another set that we don't have done yet. So what we have to do before we can sew any more on that is prep all our pieces. So all of these three super big stacks have to get trimmed down. So we actually have to cut all four edges on this. And then this stack here, this is what comes from when we sew it on the sewing machine. So I sew two pieces together on either side of the diagonal, on both sides of the diagonal, and then we cut down the middle, and that will give us two half square triangles, one on this side and one on this side. So these all need to get cut in half, then they need to be pressed, and once they're pressed, they look like this. And then once they're like this, they need to be trimmed down. And once they're trimmed down, they can be started to sew into here. And once they're at the trim down stage, we can actually use those for our leaders and enders as well. We can just start sewing our little strips together while we work on other projects. So I really do want to start trimming on that. But for some reason, I'm really, really itching to get these to the next stage. So I think we're going to just start out tonight. We're just going to rough cut all of these down the center, and this is super duper monotonous. I'm going to take all of this out just so I don't need the case here anymore. But this is just like, if you want to just chill, this is like the project for you, just making a quilt out of like scrap fabric. I've cut these all to, my original squares are 3 inches. So 2 3-inch squares, just I cut a pile of 3-inch squares, then I divide them into like lightish colors and darkish colors, so that can vary from like shade to shade, but then once I go through the process, I end up trimming them down to 2.5-inch squares when we're done here. Ultimately, with all of these, they look like PJ pants, so some of them may have been. I think these are just all so old, so I think like all the plaids are definitely like from my husband's old clothes or something. However, I think this was one of my shirts at one point. There may be pajamas. For some reason, I had a ton of this, so I think this must have been a flannel blanket that I can't actually picture having used, but it's in my scraps somehow. So anyway, a lot of that flannel, I think yeah, a lot of the light colors. Oh, I do have pajamas. This is definitely pajamas. This one right here. I do remember these as pajamas. I think they're like Victoria's Secret pajamas. Those snowflakes are made out of letter V's there. Anywho, so ultimately, I want to make one of these quilt coats. I know quilt coats are super popular, or, I don't know. Maybe they're past popular now, but even if these weren't popular, I would so want one of these. I never thought of the idea of like a quilt being a coat. I know there's some quilt coat controversy out there, but I love the idea of turning this. So this will actually never end up being a quilt. It will be like mimicking a quilt for the purpose of making a quilt coat. And I just want it like a chore coat, something that I can throw on quick if I want to go for a walk and it's a little cool out, or go to the garden, that sort of thing. So anywho, I want to just chill today and cut some stuff. So here we are. So I am going to just get my cutting glove on so I don't cut my hand off on accident. Got my rotary cutter. I do have more blades in case this is so bad that I need to change it right now. Otherwise, we'll just see. But anyway, so thanks for joining me. We will just be trimming blocks all freaking night. So I'm not actually going to press these blocks tonight because that's its own bear of time. But I do just want to cut them in half because, I don't know, it's eking me out that they're not cut in half yet. So I'm going to just, we'll make that little stack underneath me here, I think, or wherever it feels right for my hands, or for like the least amount of motion. That's what I'm going for. So I'm just cutting down the diagonal. And what we've done, so again, I have two 3-inch squares. I don't mark the diagonal because I'm just kind of estimating this is all just really loosey-goosey. But I am sewing like a 1/4 inch from the side of either diagonal. And then I cut like what I did now. And that gives me a half square triangle on this side. And it gives me an additional half square triangle on this side here. So that's the dealio. So I'm going to just go through all of these and trim them. But, if I was being smart and not going with, my gut or whatever, I would work on these up here and trimming those down, because those I can actually use when we sew other projects. I can grab 2 of those and just sew them together versus making more of these. I think we're kind of a ways away from actually having enough for the quilt, or for the coat. And I need some sort of inside too. So theoretically, this would have been made out of, theoretically I could stack more than one on top of each other, but I kind of don't want to do that. I'm going to keep it to one at a time. Sorry, I'm jumping around in my head here. But technically, if I'm really making like a chore quilt or coat out of a quilt, I would already have a quilt. So the quilt would have the lining, or it would have batting, and it would have 2 sides. Like there'd be a front of the quilt and the back of the quilt. Well, the back of the quilt theoretically would have been the inside lining of the coat. But in my case here, I only have a front of a quilt. Like I only have the front pieces. I don't have the batting or the back that would become the lining. So I have to consider what I want to do for that yet. So I almost have to make a whole nother quilt, or a whole nother quilt top for this. That would be kind of a fun lining. So I do have tons and tons and tons of muslin. It's just like from our embroidery kits. Our embroidery kits are muslin, and whenever there's a piece that's, doesn't look just right, or just like the ends of a bolt of fabric, or it's too wrinkly or something, then I don't put it in the kits and I just kind of keep it. And I was thinking I could sew a bunch of that together and that could be the lining. But I think maybe that's kind of boring. But it could be kind of cool. Like, we could dye it, maybe, and it would still be made up of a bunch of pieces. I don't know. That's been on my brain, too. I really want to just start sewing and sewing and sewing and sewing and sewing all that muslin together. And it accumulates. I have bins and bins and bins of it ready to be sewn. I'd actually love to make some little kind of decorative, like, kind of art quilts out of it. We'll see. Maybe this weekend I'll get a bug to sew a little bit. Oh, speaking of this weekend, we still have Friday yet. I keep thinking that it's almost weekend, but we still have a whole day. But Saturday, I am going to do like a marathon embroidery event here. I don't know quite when it will start, but it'll be, I don't know, late morning, early afternoon, and it'll probably go for like 6 hours or so, but I am going to be stitching up the First Blooms embroidery kit pattern. So I'm going to be stitching the samples that will be turned into the covers, and we did one of those today, so I know some of you were able to pop in today, and we stitched the little crocus, the snow crocuses live, and I just think they turned out so freaking cute. I love it. I love the colors of this one. So this is one. There's going to be 5 different designs total, so we did one today. I just wanted to get on and give it a go today. So we went live, like, I don't know, around 2-ish, 2:15-ish this afternoon. And, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm already feel like I'm going to sneeze from all the fuzz from this. But anyway, so we were able to do that one in about an hour and a half, or an hour and, I don't know, hour and 40 minutes or so. I think it was like an hour and a half. Oh, Gretchen missed it. Well, like I said, we'll be on Saturday, and I'll be stitching the other 4 kinds of flowers. Oh, currently Celeste says, those flowers turned out so pretty. I really, really love how that one turned out, the crocuses. And it just makes me wish it wasn't freaking snowing outside right now. It is just cold and ugh. But yeah, so Saturday I will be stitching the other 4. I'm gonna have to stretch beforehand or something. I'm gonna have to have the coffee brewing all day. But I would like to get through all 4 of them because they are going to be the ones that I photograph for the covers of the kits and the patterns. And I want to get those available to you guys. So it'll probably be early March. If you want to know for sure, and there's going to be a special like discount for people that do this on the first day. I do have a listing up on the website for like the big bundle that we're going to do of all 5. So that listing is up. However, there aren't any available, but there is a button that says email me when it is available. Even if you're not interested in the whole bundle and you just want one, or you just want like a PDF pattern of it, I encourage you to still click on the like email me when it's available and put in your email to that, because once I put an actual quantity, like in my back end, once I put an actual quantity in there, it's going to email you, and you'll be the first to know, like automatically, that it's actually available and live. And we're not going to announce the day. It's going to be early March, but we're not going to announce the day that it's going to go live. So only the people who will get that email will know, and they're going to get a special discount if they order that day. And then the next day we'll announce it to everyone, like in our emails and all that sort of thing. So even if you're like shell shocked at the price and don't want the whole bundle or whatever, you don't have to commit to anything. All it is like an email sent to you. I don't even think you get on our you don't even have to sign up for our newsletter or anything. I think it's literally just just for that email. It doesn't sign you up for anything. Although I'd love if you would sign up for stuff, but there's no commitment at all. Like it's not a pre-order, like, so you're not going to automatically be charged for that full bundle or whatever when it goes live. You're just going to get an email. So if you're interested at all, I suggest to go over to the site and do that. We did put the link to it right up in our top nav to just make it easy to get to, and you can get there in the, like, if you're on TikTok, you can get there in the profile. But anywho, so we'll be stitching all those on Saturday, and I'm pretty excited. Like, we haven't done a long, marathon craft project in a while. So I used to do that every once in a while. We'd have a really long Saturday stitch along, and or sew along, whatever. And I would just be there all afternoon. That's fun. I feel like I get a lot done all at once. And this is actually, like, I'm feeling like my body, like, drip into this project a little bit. Like, I feel like a little bit of relief actually from trimming these. So I'm feeling like this is getting that itch of, like, I need to get something done, or I need to get this project further, or that sort of thing. I'm definitely getting that feeling. Man, we have a lot of this black plaid. I think this is relatively new. I don't think I have this sewn into any of my blocks yet, so this will be interesting. We'll have a whole bunch of black plaid ones all of a sudden. I'm really excited to sew this together, like as an actual, I mean, it would be cool if it was an actual quilt, but I'm going to just sew like panels that are big enough for, the different pieces of the pattern. I should probably do a test pattern too. So maybe I'll sew a bunch of muslin together, muslin scraps, and I'll do a test pattern just to see if it's the right size and everything eventually. And then I think I'll also do muslin for the inside, but maybe we do something fun with it. Ooh, we could, like, embroider stuff on the inside, or maybe I have a bunch of old, like, embroideries or something. Nah, I don't want to do that. But I do have a bunch of embroideries that have, or like stuff that I've printed on and I don't like, or I don't know, I could get like all the funny, weird patterned, the goofy muslin, like sometimes they have like weird little stamps on and stuff. I could sew all those together. Or I could just dye the inside or something. Have like a pop of color on the inside. But anyway, I want to make just panels of these that are big enough for the different parts of the chore coat. And then I'll just quilt those together. I'll quilt panels together. So I'll put the front of the piece, the quilt batting. Maybe I'll try and use up some batting. And then whatever I do for like the back of the quilt, which would be the lining. So that'd be that muslin piece. I would just quilt like those panels together versus making an actual quilt. So we're kind of cheating. We're not like taking a quilt that exists and cutting it up, even though I'm totally fine with that. We are fake doing it. So I'm basically just regurgitating these clothes into more clothes, but that's okay. That's great, actually. Ooh, our stack is getting smaller, but dang, look at these. Look at what it's creating, though. Like, look at all these half-square triangles we have. Ugh, so many. Oh my god, I'm going to have to press all these. I'm not going to do that tonight, but each step I do just makes more work for me, but I really do like this project a lot. I just have to remember this is my long-term project. That it's my slow-motion recycling. It's something I knew would be around for a long time. So Saturday, when I do the stitching all day, we're gonna just chill and be here. I'm gonna put some relaxing music on in the background. I most likely will have my coffee nearby and whatever, and some water, and we'll just chill and hang out, and feel free to do your laundry or whatever while you listen. I am just going to be chilling and stitching. If I had to guess, it'd probably be around 11:30 noonish, but I don't know that for sure. But anytime after that, if you pop in, I'm gonna be there for a long time, so you won't miss me. But it was fun doing that today, just popping in. Oops. There we go. These stacks are about to tip over. Sometimes it's nice to just have an evening like this where we just get to trim and do something monotonous for a while. So far this blade has been fine, so I'm not going to be worried about changing it just yet. Like, it's not leaving little threads and stuff. Suppose I shouldn't jinx it. Oh, shoot. Tipped over my stack. Let's just start a new stack. Almost done here. These ones are kind of pretty. It looks like there's some brown. This must have been some pants or something, like some linen pants. I don't know. I don't know. It's too light for pants. But who had a shirt like that? I don't know. Some of this fabric is so old. Like, it's literally fabric. It's not even fabric. It's clothing. Old clothes that, you know, elbows got torn or something. Or, you know, that instead of bringing to Goodwill, I wouldn't have bought like a torn shirt there, but some that we just don't wear anymore. Instead of bringing it to Goodwill, it just went into a bin in my basement, and I've been like slowly bringing them out and cutting them up and taking the buttons off, and it's slowly getting sewn into this guy. This I do remember. This was some sort of summery shirt of some sort, and of mine, and then this was a shirt that John had for a while. Have a great day, Summer. All right. Hey, Kimberly. Thanks for popping in. I saw my brother pop in to TikTok right when we were ending our live earlier today, so that was nice. Not the brother that makes candles, my other brother who has the Twitch show. Notice I close my blade every single time. It freaks me out to have an open blade because, you know, you can just grab it and cut your fingers off. No, thank you. All right. Woohoo! That step is done. So let's see. We got ourselves 2 pretty big stacks of... I'm going to turn this into 3 stacks. I don't think this will even close in our bin. For now, I'll just set them to the side. But there we go. So what we do with these, so I'm not going to do this tonight, but what we do next with these is I will press them, which takes forever. If you think the cutting took forever, it takes twice as long, I think, to press. And I'm going to press them all to like the dark side of So I'm going to lay with the dark side up and then press so that the seam allowance is going towards the darker side. And once we do all that, then we end up, here, I'll stick these all right here. We'll end up with these guys. So these 3 stacks here have already been pressed, but they have not been trimmed down. So you can see they got their little dog ears on the ends there. So these need to be trimmed down to 2.5-inch squares. So like right there, so we can then sew them together for our final nice big blocks. So we're working towards that step by step. So I won't press right now just because I feel like cutting. So now we're gonna go through, these stacks, and we're gonna have a fuzzle mess here. This is when you walk around and you're just covered in thread fuzzles. We're still working on the thread conditioner stuff for sure. Ooh, Anne said I posted the latest tats on the crafters page. Oh, first time using, size 80 thread. Ooh, that's teeny tiny stuff. I'll have to check that out when we're done here. All right, I'm going to be using the block lock ruler. So this has a kind of a divot in here, and the divot is going to bump up against the seam. But the seam is thicker on this side than it is this side, because this side has all of the rest of the seam allowance here. So it's actually kind of raised. There's like a little stair step. And this is going to catch that. And I can actually slide it, like I'm pushing against it, and it's just sliding up against that seam. And when I do that, I can make sure, I can slide it up and down the seam and make sure that I'm within the 2.5-inch square here. And then I'll trim one side, then we'll flip it around, I'll shimmy it back, and I'll line up the 2.5 inches and trim the other side. So that's going to be the process of this. We're going to do a zillion hundred of these puppies. I feel like this is kind of the tedious land of all this, but we'll get into a groove maybe. All right. Haven't done it in a while. So, all right, sometimes I like cutting at an angle because I can get both sides pretty decently. Get my fingers out of the way. There we are. Flip it this way. And now I'm going to line up that 2.5 inches there and there. Ooh, I was pretty close up top. I probably didn't do a very good job there. And trim, and trim. I'm going to have to... Did I trim the top? Yeah. There we go. I don't think I got quite on the top, but there we go. So now that's what we end up with. So that's the difference. We have this nice clean 2.5-inch square versus this one that's slightly wonkier, has those edges. We really do want them all cut to these nice 2.5-inch squares. So I'm going to start myself a little pile over here, and I think I'm going to tilt you guys a little bit more and scoot you a hair out of my way too. All right, so let's scooch all this on over too. All right, let's see if we can get in the groove here. I do have, Kimberly, the perfect slotted trimmer as well. It is faster. We did do it, we did actually time it once. And it is definitely faster. But it doesn't work well with this particular project because all of these fabrics are so wonky and they stretch all differently. It's not like nice quilt weight fabric where I think those slotted trimmers would work perfectly. So it distorts, like all these distort a little bit when I iron. So that's why I'm using the block lock, so I can press it or I can trim it when it's done versus beforehand. But yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. It just didn't work out great for this project for me because of the wonkiness of this fabric. So that means we gotta cut twice as much. Although with the slotted trimmers, I did need to add one extra cut to trim the dog ears out. So it's still kind of 4 cuts, but I do miss the flip around. Okay, I don't like crossing over my body here to finish it. I think I'm trying to come up with ways to make this easier, like more conserving my emotions here. So maybe. I think I'll put these down here, maybe. There we go. I'm going to start them down here. And end up with them right there. Then I'm not crossing over my body. I can already tell that that's annoying to my shoulder. Ooh, I keep moving those a little bit. As long as we're close, we'll be fine. This really does feel nice, just making things clean and pretty for the day. We're going to have a whole pile of little fuzzles when I'm done. I think I'm going to start saving all my little like scrappy bits like this again. I want to do that. Gosh, I just keep adding projects. This is horrible. But I want to try doing that knit snake, like one of those floor, those like knit snakes that you like put in front of the door so there's no draft. We have one at my parents' house that, you know, some grandma must have made. I don't know which one. Actually, I think she might have said my great grandma Scholes might have made it. I'm gonna have to double check on that. But you know, it's with that horrible old. Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's wool. But I think it's like just that acrylic yarn, you know, from the 70s, basically, which is totally fine. But you know, I'm sure you know just what I mean. But it's so cute, and actually, Pearl Soho has a pretty similar pattern on their blog. That's free, at least for the head shape. I think that would work. Yeah, it's a draft dodger, which is just seems like a horrible name for him. Oh, Gretchen says, "Oh, we use those." Yeah, so we have one. Oh, I took a photo of it, so I'll post the photo. I'm sure once I post it, maybe you'll all know what I'm talking about, or maybe not. Who knows? But anyway, I'll post that in the group, the Facebook group, when I'm done, and just so you know what I'm talking about. But I want to make one of those. Like, I want to recreate that, but I want to use like all of my yarn scraps. So I'm big in the slow motion recycling. All of my craft supplies still. Like, oh my God, it's gonna take a lifetime, but. Dang, if I could even clean out one bin of a little bit. I did actually, when I cleaned my stuff up last time, I did actually put all of my yarn in one giant bin. I mean, it's not very organized that way, but it's all in one spot. So it'd be fun to just like pick out just like a bunch of scrap yarn to make the stripes on this snake. And then I'd practice with my double-pointed needles some more, and I'd just do a knitting project, which sounds awesome. Time to do a knitting project again, I think. Are those tools you're using listed anywhere? Oh, Gypsy, they aren't, but I should make a list of my favorite products at some point. But what I'm using is, the brand is Fiskars. You can use whatever. This is Olfa. That's kind of a more like industry brand name for like the quilt industry. So I'm using a 8-inch, nope, this is 7-inch, like a 7-inch a rotating mat. So if you just go to Amazon or like a craft store and do a rotating mat, it comes apart. It's actually just, on a little kind of sticky dial foam disc, but it comes in handy for just these little projects like this. I'm using a block lock ruler. You can actually get a bigger size in this. I didn't know this when I bought it, but I thought I had to buy the same size as what I wanted to cut, but you really don't, because it's all about that sliding motion. So actually, like a bigger one, like I kind of wish I had one that's as big as my 6.5-inch ruler here. But I don't, so this one works fine. Like, I didn't quite know how to use the block lock rulers before I got them, and so I got like this set, so that had like a 2.5-inch size and this like 3.5-inch size, and really I only needed one, and a bigger one probably would have been better. They are not cheap, and so I wish I would have kind of done that. And then I have just a rotary cutter, my Olfa rotary cutter. And then these are just old clothes and pajamas and blankets that I've been sewing as I sew other projects. So these are like my leaders and enders. So it's sometimes when you're sewing on the sewing machine, you want like a little scrap of fabric to start out with, so you don't have like threads everywhere and you're not wasting thread and stuff. And so instead of using little scraps of fabric, I just sew one of these blocks onto it. So I eventually, over time, have sewn a whole pile of these, and which is awesome. So it's like, I call it my magic quilt sometimes, just because it's being made. First of all, it's made out of nothing. It's made out of recycled clothing, and it's also being made while I work on other projects. So it's magically getting made. Except for times like this, when when I have to like process what I've sewn. So I'm trimming it down. So every once in a while I need a little day like this where I just cut everything. Now this one was a weird, awkward size, it feels like. Okay, I feel like I'm doing it wrong, but I think it was just bigger. Yeah, looks good. Same size as everything else. Oops. Come back. So when I make the first cut, I'm just making sure, I'm just looking at my 2.5-inch marks on here. I'm just making sure that it's within the block, so it's not like down here, because then I won't end up with a 2.5-inch square. So the first cut, I'm going anywhere as long as I'm within the 2.5-inch and I have like a little edge bleeding over that I can cut. So that's getting my first nice square cut. And then the second cut, I am actually lining up, like we're shimmying down that seam with the block lock ruler, but I am really super duper lining up the 2.5 inches now at that point. So cut number 2, I am actually using the ruler to line up, and that's how I'm getting my perfect 2.5-inch square. So this block lock ruler was designed like specifically for cutting half square triangles like this, which is a big deal in quilt land. Half square triangles are used an awful lot. How big do you make the bigger blocks? Let's see. Well, I'm doing 5 by 5. So if these are like 2 inches once they're sewn, so 10. So it would end up being like 10.5 by 10.5 inch block. So 10.5 unfinished, 10-inch finished once it's sewn in a quilt size. So 5 by 5. So that would end up being like a 10-inch block. Because these are 2.5-inch squares, but we lose a 1/4 inch on all sides when we sew them together. So we actually have to think of them as like 2-inch squares, even though I'm cutting them at 2.5-inch. Ooh, this one barely fits into our 2.5-inch mark. So 10-inch squares, which is really helpful for me when I'm gonna, put the panels of this together so I can quilt it to the quilt coat. So like the front 2 panels and then the back panel and the sleeves or whatever, I can be like, okay, I need 6 10-inch squares for the sleeve or whatever. So it's not going to be a quilt, Kimberly. I'm going to actually sew it into the chore quilt, or the chore coat. I'm going to make this one here that's made out of a quilt, but not this wait, so I was going to do, yeah, probably just like this. I don't know if I'm going to do all the buttons, though. Kind of want to do a zipper. I don't know. That's ahead of the game. I did actually measure. I took out the pieces and I measured one that I thought would work, a size. But I think I should make a muslin first, because this is a lot of work to put into something and not have it fit. So I think I have tons of scrap muslin. I'll have to sew a bunch of muslin together to make a muslin. But I think I'm going to do that with the coat first. And then I'll just use that to know like how big of panels. So I'm making like fake quilt, fake panels, fake quilt panels. So I'm still going to quilt them. I'm still going to put like a front of a piece and a batting and a back of a piece together, but it's just not going to be a whole quilt. It's going to be just the panels. And actually, we don't have, like, I've laid this out as a quilt before, and it's not all that big yet. Although I haven't done that in a while. Although I haven't really worked on it in a while either. It'd be fun to lay it out. Oh my gosh, I didn't have that closed. See, that's what freaks me out. I forgot to close it there for a sec, and I hate having an open blade sitting around, so that freaked me out. My God, you guys, I've only done this many. I've been at it forever. So this is the first stack. I'm not even halfway through this first stack, and we have 3 stacks. So we're just going to go, for the 15 more minutes. That's why just the time to just chill and process this takes a while. But I'm liking the results, so I'm keeping at it. Oh, Robin, you're still there. Ugh. I'm so sorry to hear that. It's nice of you to hang out with us then here. I hope it's gonna be going well. That is a rough day. Sending you some sparkles. Today I am just trimming half square triangles. Gosh, this is like one of those things that you keep working on it though, and it doesn't look like you've done anything. You can use the muslin. Linda's saying that you can use the muslin piece pattern as the lining. Oh, that's true. Well, but so how I'm going to do this is I'm not actually making a lining. That would work if I was doing the coat in a normal way. So if I was just making this as the exterior of the coat, and then I was making an interior of the coat, that could totally be the muslin that I tested on. if it works out. But I want to do this like an actual quilt coat. So I am going to quilt the pieces together as if it's a real quilt. Just not the shape of a real quilt, the size of a real quilt. And then I'm going to take those quilted pieces and sew them together. So I suspect I'm going to have to, put like some bias tape around all the edges or something, because theoretically all of my edges would be exposed. Since I'm not doing a lining, it would be just the backside of a quilt, basically. So theoretically what you're saying is the normal, perfect way to do it. I'm just making it hard for myself. But I think kind of fun still. It'll be fun to quilt these little pieces. I have a feeling I'm going to have to really baste them together well, because, like I said, these all have different weird stretch to it, and it's half square triangles. So triangles are stretchy in general because you have the diagonal seam, or that diagonal cut too, and diagonals, or the bias of a fabric. That's where you cut diagonally across the vertical and horizontal grains. You just cut diagonally. That's called the bias, and that is super duper stretchy compared to just like the normal vertical and horizontal sides. So this whole thing is going to be like a weird stretchy mess, so I'm going to have to really baste it together really well before quilting it, I think. And I'm probably going to have to do it quite a bit, not quite a bit, but substantially larger than what the piece is going to end up being, because if it stretches or is weird or moves around too much or whatever, I still want enough to be able to do the piece. Oh, that's interesting, Kimberly. I could line it with sweatshirts cut up and maybe skip the batting. I might have. I haven't. That's not a thing that I save all the time, sweatshirts like that, but I may have enough to do that with. Huh, that's an interesting idea. Regardless, it'll be Frankensteining batting pieces together, so whether it's sweatshirts or something else, I'm going to have to kind of construct it from scraps, I think. I could use fresh batting, but I like the idea that we're recycling this whole thing. Yep, I'm making, Robin, I'm making them into, I mean, this image is stupid, but this is like a vintage pattern for basically a chore coat. Like, some of these are crazy looking, but I'm going to make one that starts as like a quilted piece. So basically it's this one right here, like the simple collar, pockets, here's the back. It's going to look more like just like a big old coat that you put on that looks like and feels like a blankie. And I think it'd be perfect for just like on cooler days to just throw on. So when I make like the muslin, I'm going to have to like try it on with like a sweatshirt and stuff underneath, because I literally want it to just be my hang by the door and throw on, or if I want to go to the garden, I can put some tools in the pockets, or like if we're wandering through the woods, we can put pretty stones and pretty seashells or whatever. Pretty driftwood, not seashells, I don't live by the sea, but pretty driftwood could go in there or something. Oh, thanks so much, Abby Cat. I think it's just a tendency to want to try a bunch of things. I don't know if I'm necessarily super duper talented in much, but I do like trying a lot of things. I do like playing a lot around with. I like knowing how to do stuff. I like learning the mysteries of things, and then and making stuff. Like all the crafting mysteries. I like that. And I'm lately, for the past few years, if you can call that lately, obsessed with my slow motion recycling, which is just like I need to use up all of my stuff. Clean it up, use it up, sew it up. So this is all old clothes. That I have not thrown away. Oh, but while I was talking about that snake, the draft dodger, I don't know, that feels weird. That snake to stop the drafts at the door, but, is really actually a toy. But I think that's what the real purpose is. I want to start collecting these little scraps and stuff again, because I think it'd be fun to stuff it with all, scraps like this. Although, I don't know. I think I'm a little worried about it coming through the knitting, though, too. But what am I going to do? I'd either have to make a lining, which, that'd be annoying. I'd have to almost knit around it. Or it's just putting batting in, which I might be able to see anyway. So maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I will just stuff it with little scraps. Oh, thanks so much, Abby Cat. I like learning tricks on how to do stuff and letting you guys know what I learned. And I never used to have any of these gadgets. All of these gadgets, like the black ruler, this rotating cutting mat, have come from doing these lives. And you guys asking about, if I've tried them and whatever, and then me just getting some and trying them out. So I've acquired all these fun gadgets over the past years. But what I like about quilting is that, quilting, gosh, as a craft goes, can be the most expensive craft or the cheapest craft. I'm literally doing this with old clothes, right? And I could have stitched this by hand, and I could be cutting this with the scissors. I don't need all these tools. But man, they sure do make things helpful. But yeah, as cheap as you like and as expensive as you like for sure. Oh, cool. Kimberly says, I just signed up my daughter and I up for a women's basic building class. Yet another hobby. That sounds freaking amazing. Quilting Cats and Bats says, haha, it really can be as expensive as you want it to be. It can be real expensive. So here's my expensive scenario that would be just freaking beautiful and amazing. First of all, you need your giant beautiful shed or she shed or whatever, right? You need that, right? So that's, I don't know, $1 zillion. And then get a big free motion, long arm free motion quilting machine. So a long arm sewing machine, that's where you have your whole giant frame, and you have the machine that sits and it can move separate from the frame, and that's what you see when people are getting their quilts professionally quilted, and they have those giant frames. So you get yourself one of them. Throw in an embroidery machine, all the rulers, all the cutting mats, all that. Yeah, exactly. Quilting Cats and Bats says a long arm with a computer that costs as much as a car. For real. Exactly. But how fun would that be? That would be so fun. Oh, God. The problem is I want, all those things for, all the crafts. I want, all the giant things for every craft. I want to do, rug, oh gosh, what's that even called now? Where you have that gun and you make rugs out of it? God, I can't even think. But I want to build a frame for that and get one of those, and I don't even know if I like it. I've never tried it. But and like a loom. Wouldn't that be fun to have? All the things. Tufting. Yes. That's what I'm thinking of. A tufting gun. Gosh, that just looks so fun. Give me all the big fun machines. And like John's taken a glassmaking class with my dad at like a real glassmaking place in town here, and where you have like the giant kilns full of like liquid lava glass, and you need like a whole workshop of stuff. Like, that'd be super cool to have all that stuff. Oh, and it'd be fun to have just a kiln for pottery and pottery stuff. I don't do any of that either, but it would be fun. Oh, man. Kimberly says, I have a floor loom. It's the coolest thing ever. I would love that. And then I want to save all of the sewing machines. Like, I want all of those as my little babies. All the vintage sewing machines. A whole room of them. All with their own little projects on, ready to go. See, so that's expensive land of quilting, even though I listed like 8 other crafts. It'd be fun. Fun. Oh, dang, you guys, it's already 9:30. I still have, like, this whole stack to go, and I'm definitely not going to finish that tonight. So we'll do a few more tonight. But thanks for letting me just chill here and trim half-square triangles. I'm feeling good about it. And actually, the stack that we have done, so I have, like, all of these guys done, which really, I mean, I'm going to sew through these like nothing. But, that one didn't cut all the way. But I can put those in my bin of like ready to sew items. So like what I mean by that is the things that I can sew while working on other projects. So my leader and enders for other sewing projects, I can put these finished ones with them, and I can start sewing these into the groups of 5, so I can do my blocks here. More of those. But I feel good that we spent time trimming these guys in half too. That made me happy. That's a full step into the next step land. Oh, Arloa says, I need to get out more. I have not heard of a tuft gun. Google tufting, so tuft with the ing, tufting gun, and then go to images, and I mean, it'll probably come up with a bunch of tufting guns, but somewhere it will show like videos and people actually like making rugs with this tufting gun and yarn. Oh my god, it looks so fun. Or go to Pinterest. That'd be a good place to look. Go to Pinterest and type in like tufting gun and see what comes up. It just looks like too much fun. It actually looked, I don't know why this is just popping in my head, but it looks like it would be so fun to have at like a wedding. Like imagine like a crafty wedding. You can do where you could like just have everyone like be able to tuft like a name or like, I don't know, a little heart, and you could teach people someone could be there like teaching them how to do it, and then they could just draw lines and shapes, and then you could have like that piece from your wedding. I think, if you picked, and it wouldn't even matter what it looked like, it would just be like an abstract sort of art piece. You'd already predetermined the size. You could predetermine the colors. They could be like just some really beautiful colors. So you're not going to end up with something bad from that. And like people would get to try some wackadoodle craft that they might have never seen before. How freaking fun. That would be a memorable wedding. Where can we find the pattern? So I don't have a pattern for this Terry, but I can tell you what it is. It is 3-inch squares. So I'm going to show you with this. So I cut these apart already, but if you cut 3-inch squares, and I'm doing it all from old shirts and stuff, so I don't have like measurements for like yardage, but 3-inch squares, and I separate the squares in a pile of dark ones. So this is dark, and then, a pile of light squares. So then I'll take 2 squares, and, you can draw a line on the diagonal. So just draw a line of the diagonal, and then sew a 1/4 inch from the diagonal on both sides of that diagonal. So you're actually making 2 sewn seams. And then you're going to cut. You're going to cut on that diagonal, and then from cutting on that diagonal, you have made 2 half-square triangles. So at that point, you can press these, and then I am trimming them to a 2.5-inch square. So you start out with 2 3-inch squares, you sew them together, and end up with 2 half-square triangles that are 2.5 inches. And then after that, I have been sewing them into like strips of 5, and then I'm sewing those strips of 5 together, and then I'm ending up with like these groups of 5 by 5 half-square triangles, and you can actually turn them all different angles to create different designs. That's kind of like the beauty of half-square triangles. I'm doing them in all the same direction, so all my darks are on one side, all my lights are on another. But you can see, like, even if I put 2 up next to each other that are different, so here's them rotated the same way. So here it all looks like all the triangles are going in the same direction, but if I rotate it, now all of a sudden I got like these flying geese looking blocks here. So you really can play around with, now I got these fun diamonds. So as you sew them together in like these smaller groups, you can create some of those fun shapes. So you can just play around with that. I'm just doing them all one because I kind of like the look of them all going the same direction. I think that's kind of fun. So that's it. And then, eventually you can sew all those together in a quilt. I am going to be making, you're probably wondering about this. You're probably wondering about this pattern. So I'm going to be sewing it into this. So I think I found this on eBay. It is McCall's, let's see, here's the number. So it's 8522. So my guess is that if you put in McCall's vintage pattern 8522, it'll probably get to it. Okay, it's called the Mrs. Lined Jacket. Loose-fitting jacket has slightly extended shoulders, front button closure, and sleeve variations. And there is a version for working with an actual quilt on here, which I thought was interesting. I don't know where it is now. But anyway, so that's the pattern. Sorry, you probably meant that the whole time. Anywho, there we go. And so this one's a small, which is sizes 8 and 10, which, you gotta, I think with all these, you gotta pretty much do a mock-up. And then I have a medium version too, because I just didn't know which one to get. I think I'm making the bigger size of the small. So what do I have on here? Oh, I have like some measurements on here already. Anywho, that's the pattern. But there, you got my whole rant about it too. All right, and you know what? I think I'm gonna stop there for tonight. So let's see what we did. So this stack I don't have done. I'm just gonna stick it on the rest of these. So let's just kind of balance this out a little bit. So here are the remaining ones I have to trim. Still quite a bit, but we sort of made it through a stack. So here it is, all trimmed. You can definitely tell how much cleaner and prettier these are. So now these, like I said, I'm going to leave out because while I sew on other projects, I can start sewing them into my little groups right away. So I'm going to leave these out. These I'll put away, and then we trimmed all these. So once these are pressed, they'll be at this stage, and oh my god, we're going to have such a huge stack of these. Ugh! and we got this many fuzzles. So, all right, you guys, that is that for the night. So thanks again for joining me for all that. I'll have to lay all these out again on the floor. I don't think we have any more than what we had last time I did that, but I haven't done it in a while, and the floor is nice and clean now, so maybe I'll do that. But anyway, I always love when we can work on this project. I know it's like a slow roll thing that we just work on forever, but it is really fun just moving that needle along a little bit more. I feel good. Feel good about it. So, all right. Have a lovely evening. I will be back here again at 8:30 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. And then Saturday, we will do that marathon stitch along of the rest of those flower patterns. So we got the crocus, and then we have the other ones we will work on Saturday. So I hope to see you for that. And awesome. Have a lovely rest of your evening, everyone. Good night.